this baby audio tutorial, I'm going to show you 5 ways to punctuate your beats using Super VHS. Super VHS is a plugin that Baby Audio made. It's inspired by the 1980s out-of-tune synths with like gritty samples and grainy reverb. I use Super VHS particularly at the end of cadences before a new section starts, just to create a little bit of interest. I do this so that I get more streams. I'm Lil Miss Beats. I'm a classically trained multi-instrumentalist, composer, and music producer, and I mainly make lo-fi, chill, jazzy beats. Come to think of it, kind of like the song you're hearing in the background right now. On the Super VHS plugin, you'll see 6 knobs. We've got static, heat, shape, magic, drift, and wash. So instead of, please smash the like button for the algorithm, it sounds like this. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. We've got static. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. Heat. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. Shape. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. Magic. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. Drift. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. And wash. Please smash the like button for the algorithm. I will just highlight this magic button for a long time. I'm not going to tell you how long. I didn't even know it was a button, but you can push it and it's a Juno-inspired chorus effect, but darker and deeper. So here's some context leading into the cymbal. So this is what it sounds like now. But now, I want to automate the heat so that the closer to the end of the cymbal we get, the more fire there is and the more punchy the end of the cymbal becomes. I now get my automation lanes and I can simply click B. I've got my pencil now. Or you don't have to use your pencil. You can also just use your mouse. Double click for a point. Bring that level up so that the heat increases as we get further. If you want an intense heat but you want it less wet, then you can also just change this mix knob, which is often overlooked. But yeah, I love having dry wet knobs on things. That's too teary at the end. So now what I like to do is in Ableton, whatever you use, you can bounce out that audio. So in Ableton, I often just like to use the resampling method because it's quite quick. I solo the track that I want to sample per se. I record a new track under which I've clicked here and clicked resampling, and then I just hit the record button. So I've called that track resampling, and now the audio in there is basically the cymbal plus the effects. So I don't even need to hear the cymbal right now. So let's just work with the resampling track. You can hear I've got this interesting tail now at the end. I can choose to cut that off, because in the top track, you could still hear the end of the wet signal generated in the audio. So if you want to make a nice clean cut, this is how you do it. You resample it and you hard cut off the tail. Now double clicking on here, I go into warp mode and I choose tones. If I click shift towards the end of the track, that little arrow appears. So there's a bracket now with an arrow in it. And now I can just pull while holding shift and drag the audio out, and it kind of mangles the audio a bit. So we can mix that in with our original signal to create something a little bit more interesting. This is way too loud, so let's bring the gain down. I want to add a bit of a chorus effect. Actually, I can do that with Super VHS. I'm going to hit that magic button. It's slightly wider, but I want it more magical, so I'm just going to duplicate that Super VHS. I'm just going to duplicate it again. Now we're starting to get some interesting phasing results because of all this magic, which if you were paying attention before, you will know is simulated by Juno's chorus effect. Let's resample that again. So I'm going to solo. This time I only want the resampled track soloed. We're going to call this resample lowercase. Oh, it's pretty nasty, but I'm going to pan this one all the way to the right. I'm going to pan the top one all the way to the left and take off some of these Super VHS with the normal cymbal. I want to add a little bit of reverb on it, so I'm going to increase the wash knob, but I want to also take the mix down. Now you've got that little at the end. So for this next trick, I'll be using a collab song that I did with Ulu. Anyway. And here are the hats. I quite like the very simple transition of just drum stopping and then hi-hats coming in. I like that. I don't actually want to make it any more fancy than that. But while the hi-hats are playing, I do want to make them a little bit more interesting. So boring hi-hats, no. No. I always like to add all sorts of fun things to make my hi-hats pop. I've already done quite a bit to make the hi-hats fun. I've chopped them up, I've moved things around. These aren't actually just hi-hats. But this track is specifically there for the hi-hats and a bit of the snare vibes. So what I'm going to do here is, for certain parts of the hi-hats, I want to add a little bit more flair, and we're going to do that using Super VHS's static. So first of all, I'm going to add some Super VHS, and we can actually make the hi-hats a little bit wider initially just by adding magic. That might actually be too much. A little bit of heat. Let's see, before, after, in the mix, without. So it's already making it just that much more interesting. But now let's create a second track. I'm going to add Super VHS. I'm going to just solo the hi-hats. I'm going to solo Super VHS because those are the only two things we're interested in right now. And on the second track, let me just call it resample, because you betcha we're going to be resampling. I'm going to bring up the static. Now that doesn't sound very cool, but we could use the hi-hat, or I mean it's not just hi-hat, we could use that highish drum loop as a side chain for the static, so that when the hi-hats are playing, there's no static playing, and when the hi-hats are not playing, the static comes in. That's better. Nice. Also want it a bit wider, so that's sounding pretty cool. So there's two things I don't like about it. Number one is having it there all the time I don't think is that effective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now resample this and cut out bits that I don't like. Now we can take that away because we don't need it. We don't need you no more. You can change the volume, double click, change the gain. So that was the one thing that I didn't like about it. You know what? I'm going to maybe just have it between these two parts. Whoa, 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 whoa. Great. And for this particular part, I'm going to change the panning as well. So I'm going to automate the hi-hat panning to sort of go all the way to the right. And the static panning can go all the way to the left. Kind of, especially with the kick there, it kind of adds a bit of a fun vibe to the song. So there's one more thing. I wonder if you can guess it. La, la. That's sort of the notes of the static, and that's not quite in key. La, la. I want it to be that note because that's the root note of the key, and I believe that's 3 semitones up. So I'm going to change my warp mode to tones. La, 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 la. So 3 semitones, and this is what it sounds like now. And in context. So here, I don't want to punctuate the beat, I want to punctuate the bass. In fact, it's that last bass note that I think we can spice up. This jazz piano section is kind of different to the previous section by quite a lot, so I do want to do something that makes, I want to do something that makes the listener a little bit more aware that a change is coming. Now this song is still in progress, I might still add some piano chops earlier on, but I definitely want to spice up that last bass note. So, what I'm going to do, new audio track as always. Now on this initial bass MIDI track, which is just a plain sine wave on this operator device on Ableton, I'm going to add Super VHS. And yes, we're going to be automating, so I definitely want to add some wash and some heat. Also, definitely shape. Oof, I love using shape, especially at big section changes. Let's just give you a taster. How cool is that? Very cool. If you smash like if you think it's cool. Let's automate. It's the wash. So the wash is like the grainy reverb. No? I want it to have more heat. I want it to go, I want it to be nasty. Yeah, that's what I want. Cool, we're going to resample that. Now that I have that audio, I'm going to take away Super VHS. I like to take away the plugins when I don't need them because they help with CPU resources, but it's also a lot easier for me to see what's going on if I don't have like bypassed plugins everywhere. I'd rather just delete them. Oh, no, but I deleted the audio. Don't delete the audio. The third point why I like to delete the plugins and work with the audio rendered out like this is just I find it a lot easier to manipulate and I can really go in any direction. You know what? It'll make my life easier if I just have that bass note rendered out as well. And I'm going to blend them like this. Let's see what that sounds like. And this is where we're going to play with our cool shape knob. Ooh. I'm going to send it to a reverb return track. So just before we get that beautiful string section, I have a sort of slow intro and I'll play you just a few bars before we hit that string. So that silence, I want to do something stringy, preempting all the strings that are to come. So I'm going to take one of my string recordings over here. I'll just take that note, copy it, perfect. So I've got my new track here. Let's add my strings. I'm going to be using a sampler. So a sampler is a sampler in Ableton, and you can use any sampler. The reason I want to use the sampler here is because I want to play with the start and end time of this violin sample to create something we call an exponential rhythm. And I'm going to pull it into the sampler so that now if I play the keyboard, that's all we hear. If we put it on loop mode and just hold down one note, it just keeps looping. And now if I change the start time while I'm holding down a key, so we're going to be automating the start time to change the rhythm of the violin sample. That's what I want. So it's kind of cool, but it does sound a bit weird without any effects. So automate the wash so that as we get close to the end of the exponential rhythm, the more reverb there is. In a separate audio track, I'm just going to have that violin sample with plain reverb so that it's got that at the end. Doesn't quite go with the rest of the song, so I'm gonna not do that. But if you're into EDM or glitch production, that shape knob. So this is from one of my songs called Cape Town Lo-Fi Girl, and we'll be talking about this transition here. So you can't quite get a tape stop effect with Super VHS, but what you can do is just max out that drift and get something that might even be a little bit more unique. So that's what we're going to be doing here. I'll demo that on the previous piano. So first, new track, which we're going to be working on. Now, I'm going to take this piano here, duplicate it down, and just solo that track. And of course, I'm going to add some Super VHS. Now, we're going to max that drift out. And let's just be safe. Let's add a limiter because we're going to be doing some crazy stuff in here. Just make sure that you've got battery on your laptop and that you're not maxing out your CPU because this is going to be a little bit draining for your machine. Okay, Super VHS. Duplicate, 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 duplicate. And number 10, duplicate. We've got 10 drifts. Just brace yourself. It's going to sound interesting, okay? And see up there? Yeah, my laptop's struggling. So I'm not going to be resampling like I usually do. Instead, I'm going to hope and pray that my laptop doesn't crash while we do this. And I'm going to freeze track. Hang in there, baby. Hang in there, baby. It's going to take a little longer than usual because it's a lot of drifting. My sweet pea. Oh, you're a third of the way. You've got this. You're racing. Oh my gosh. And he approaches the middle line. Oh my gosh. He's over halfway. He keeps going. He's not showing any signs of faltering or falling. The CPU meter is on 77%, but it's not really going higher than that. Does it mean it's frozen or is it just at that steady pace? We're in the last final few percent and it's frozen. Oh my gosh. Okay, the first thing to do, we're going to do it again. And look at that CPU meter go down. That was a close call. Everything's a lot better. Okay, now we can listen to it. See, that's so interesting. So what I would do is consolidate it because for some reason it's not consolidated. And you can play with transposing this around to get a cool tape stop effect. So you could do this without the drift and just transposing, but you get such a predictable result. And this drift is quite unpredictable and it adds to the charm. There, that worked quite well. So I'm going to keep that aside. Also, this chord is so nice. It's not drifting too much, it's just a bit of a whimper. So go through the audio and pick out some really interesting things and use those in your sample chops to create something a little bit more interesting than taking a clean sounding sample chop and just fixing it up. So if we take our original section of piano like this, and I'm going to substitute in some of these wonky chords, it's going to add a lot more flavor to the phrase, just like punctuation adds so much flavor to a sentence. would suggest doing this throughout a phrase so that each time you hear a specific phrase from a sample, it sounds slightly different. That's so much more interesting than having the exact same chord loop going over and over. I think we all have different favorite punctuation marks with different reasonings. I'm more of a semicolon kind of gal just because I tend to talk and then add related clauses and don't know when to stop and just put that full stop there. Kind of like now, comma. So let me know what your favorite punctuation mark is in the comments and why. You can download a demo to try before you buy. So if you want to try out any of these tricks in your own DAW, you can go to the website. I've left a link in the description and you can download your own demo. If you want more baby audio tutorials from me on this channel, let them know so maybe they'll get me back.